actual truckload of missing ballots, 60,000 of them that should have been in your hands by now. They were found yesterday. What we found today is an increasingly nasty back and forth between the Postal Service and the Adams County clerk on how this ever came to happen. Clerk says he has the receipts. Our Marshall Zellinger's been on the phone all afternoon trying to make sense of what is really just a senseless delay in democracy. People want to be able to vote, Marshall.
Kyle, let's start with the bottom line. If you're waiting for your ballot, you're going to get it. No one is being disenfranchised by multiple mistakes. 61,000 of you are still waiting for your ballots. They may be there today. The areas in orange are the homes where the most ballots are delayed. The yellow areas, some in those zip codes were impacted by this delay, but many others were not. I found out today the mail facility in Commerce City received 15 trucks full of ballots for Adams, Arapahoe, Jefferson, and Larimer counties. But one was turned away because of bad paperwork. And Adams County Clerk and Recorder Stan Martin feels like he was told one story yesterday and another today.
They had information that this truck with our 60,000 ballots on that truck was rejected, and they sat on that information for a week or over a week, and nobody was notified of that.
I need to point out, Stan Martin running for re-election, Republican there. According to him and the Secretary of State's office, there's an agreement with the post office that shipments of ballots are not refused. Well, this document provided to me by the Secretary of State's office shows in cursive there that it was refused.
We have talked to the post office before about rejecting ballots, and we believed we had an agreement with them that going forward there would never be a ballot reject at the general mail facility, and we were assured of that before this election. We were assured that that wasn't what happened early yesterday, and now we come to find out that those assurances were wrong.
Here is what the Postal Service has to tell us, that one truck had insufficient payment documentation for the Postal Service to accept the shipment. They've requested an investigation, that is, by the Office of Inspector General. What now? We have back and forth between the Postal Service, the Clerk and Recorder, and the Secretary of State's office. We'll eventually get to the bottom of this. I'm told, Kyle, that by the clerk that you have to actually open up the back of the truck to get to that receipt that somebody wrote refused, so somebody visually would have seen the word ballots. But I want to get back to the bottom line. Yeah. There is no voter fraud. For people saying this is voter fraud, those ballots were never touched. They were wrapped, they were sealed, everything like that, and you're still going to get them in your hand in time to vote.
Best case somebody could make is that it's indirect voter suppression because you had to wait another week. But if people are still having trouble, they can reach out to us, reach out to the clerk.
And they can show up in person if they want to vote tomorrow.
Exactly. You can be assured. All right, Marshall, thank you so much. Our next question comes from a viewer named Lorraine. Saw this on a Facebook post about duplicate ballots being received in Weld County. Many people have already voted. Seems odd to receive two ballots that look exactly the same. What gives? Here's the deal, Lorraine. The Weld County Clerk, Carly Coppa, says we're talking about 827 extra ballots. According to them, there was a printing error that made some voters' names and addresses too difficult to read on the outside, so the ballot printing company put new address labels over the top of the misprint. But then they got a call in Weld County from one voter saying that the label outside did not match the return inside. So then obviously you're worried, well, what about those other 800? That's why they sent out the second ballots. Fair question, though. What do you do if you get two, or if you already sent back your first?
Use the second one because that for sure has the correct return envelope in it. And we ask that you do destroy the other ballot packet along with that other ballot.
If your first ballot was correct and you sent it back, you're set. You don't have to do anything with the second one. They'll only count the first one that received. And mix-up didn't cost taxpayers anything because the vendor paid for those reprints.
Colorado can help lead the way for progressive government by electing Jared Polis as your next governor.
Hey, you know that voice, and there's the face. Jared Polis is thrilled that Senator Bernie Sanders came to campaign for him today. Also, Colorado Republicans are thrilled that Bernie Sanders came to campaign for Jared Polis today. Both parties think that Sanders' image as a popular Democratic socialist will jazz up their base. So, how close is Polis to Sanders on policy? Well, that is still debatable. Just listen to the bob and weave that Polis gave me in last week's debate. Senator Sanders is a proud Democratic socialist, and a lot of his policies and your policies align. Taxpayer-funded universal preschool, government-provided health care, carbon taxes. I've never heard you call yourself a Democratic socialist. Maybe you could explain where you differ from Bernie Sanders and other Democratic socialists.
I believe in the power of the free market. I'm a capitalist. I've started several companies, and I'm proud to have created hundreds of jobs.
In a sentence, a major issue that Bernie Sanders is for that you're against?
Well, I'm not here to discuss what he supports. I'm not familiar with all of his positions.
You said you disagree with
I think
some.
in general,
again,
I've introduced over 100 tax cuts at the national level. I believe in streamlining government and small government. I tend to believe that he generally believes in expanding government, but you'd have to get to the specifics with disagree or agree.
Maybe they had a chance to talk about it today. I don't know. There's probably a tight schedule, though. Speaking of issues that seem unsettled after our debates, if you were watching our late night debate on Tuesday, you heard one of the candidates in America's most closely contested House races, or one of them. You got Democrat Jason Crow and Republican Congressman Mike Kaufman fighting it out in Colorado's 6th district. Crow crows about rejecting special interest money. Marshall Zellinger called him out for being perfectly happy to have special interest money spent on his behalf. Whether Jason Crow really gave us an answer, that too, still debatable.
Why not tell those groups, nope, I'm good. I don't need you producing these ads that perhaps could help me win this election?
Yeah, you know, last year I actually challenged Mike Kaufman to come to an agreement with me and said, you know, together we should lead by example and run a clean campaign.
Okay, well, like I asked, why not tell the people running negative attack ads you want them to stop so you can have a clean campaign regardless? Why don't you come out and say, I don't want you to do that?
Because we need to do that together. Right, if we're going to have a clean campaign that's about the issues that are facing this community, we should be able to together come to an agreement and say, let's lead by example.
Got it. I think I've heard this example before. Heck, I used it as a kid. It's called the "He Did It First."
You can see both debates in full on 9news.com, and that's where also you can find our voter guide that has all the statewide ballot issue information and breakdowns on key races. Frequent targets of President Trump's words received pipe bombs today and yesterday. The Clintons, the Obamas, George Soros, CNN, Eric Holder, Maxine Waters, list goes on. NBC News got a hold of a photo of one of the devices. Experts say it did have everything it needed inside to explode. Thankfully, none did, and the president wholly condemned acts of violence. Mailing a bomb to somebody whose politics you don't like or whose journalism you don't like is an astonishing act of cowardice, especially considering that the bomber surely knows all of these public people are not opening their own mail. So they're risking the lives of mail carriers and mailroom employees and law enforcement, not the powerful people whose names are on the packages. There's a reason that rage is often described as blinding. I suggested this morning on social media that maybe today would be a day to dial back the rage. You know, I guess what followed? Conservatives told me that they are outraged at this obvious Democratic setup to make Republicans look bad. Progressives told me that only my white male privilege allows me to call for a de-escalation, that those without power can't afford to dial back the rage. All right, so rage it is, and rage it will be. The blinding kind, apparently. Certainly hope that Chad Kelly can straighten out his life. He's hardly the first person to lose a job for bad behavior. Happens to doctors and teachers and plumbers and newscasters. But we know his name and his behavior because he is a Denver Bronco, or at least he was until this morning when the team cut him loose. He also came to court this morning on criminal trespassing charges, accused of randomly entering some family's home in the dead of night after a wild Halloween party Monday. Strip away the football jersey, as the Broncos did, and Chad Kelly is another young man who cannot seem to get his life together. He's kicked off Clemson's football team. He was arrested 4 years ago for knocking out a bouncer at a bar. At this point, pro football may be out of Chad Kelly's reach, and you know what? So be it. I would hope he can get to a happy life where he's not a threat to himself or others. He has certainly gotten a lot of chances that most people would not receive. The Chad Kelly saga gave talk radio talkers something to talk about, and that's a good thing because they've got hours of airtime in front of them each day. Not knocking what they do. I imagine that it would be hard. You got to take these little scraps of info and then just speak off the top of your head about it for hours and hours. Our photojournalist Mike Grady got a look at how it works behind the scenes.
The best from Broncos coverage. Sports Radio 104.3. The Fan.
Man, yesterday was a fun day to be listening to The Fan, as is today.
You're in the control room right now at Sports Radio 104.3 The Fan during Stokely and Zach.
Zach By. I'm a sports talk show host in the noon to 3 hour with Brandon Stokely.
Now you cut Chad Kelly.
My morning yesterday was just like any other morning until our producer, Raj, called me.
Let's get it.
And said, "Did you see the news?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, our show is written."
Had there just been a Chad Kelly arrest and no party, it would have been a story. You combine it and you get a much larger story.
We had the whole show lined out, prepped, planned, ready to rock, and then you just rip it up and throw it in the garbage.
It's just the old Control-A on the keyboard, delete, and start over from scratch.
But if he was a starting quarterback, I promise you they wouldn't have cut it.
For 3 hours yesterday, we did not deviate one time from the Chad Kelly news.
That's the way it is.
Because people are constantly in and out of their cars. Everybody's on a different schedule.
I just think it's a bad look.
They only may be listening for a short amount of time, so you want to make sure when they're in that car, they're hearing whatever the biggest, most important story that they care the most about is.
You know, with blow all over their face.
To fill 3 hours, and not just fill it, but to be entertaining for 3 hours about the same topic, that's a real challenge.
Chad Kelly ends up being the fall guy.
Just staying focused and trying to be creative of, you know, what's next, and trying to find branches of this conversation, because the conversation doesn't change, but you need to spin it forward, spin it back. It was a big sigh that the 3 hours of the same topic were over, but at the same time, I want to be open to what these guys in the afternoon had to say. So I was locked in for the entirety of yesterday. So I'm going to bounce it off you next.
What a week.
What say should the government have in who you are?
And we don't know what's coming, and that's scary too.
And a few of the good ones handled a rescue right outside the dispatch center. That's next.
My name is Isaac Hartstone, and I approve this message. Hi, I'd like to talk to you today about trolls. Trolls like me get a bad name during campaign season. Political trolls lurk on Twitter and Facebook. I live in the forest outside Breckenridge. Political trolls are made up of rage and lies. I'm made up of wood and sticks. Breckenridge might make me move in the spring. Maybe if political trolls would stop hiding behind anonymous social media accounts in their mother's basements, people would be nicer to the real trolls like me. I mean, I'm not even allowed to vote. I'm made out of wood.
Paid for by Trolls Are People Too.
Tomorrow at 10 on 9 News, after one of the most tragic crimes in Colorado history.
And a knife.
One family story years later. Two women who dealt with a terrible event years ago. A troubled granddaughter.
I was always running around and getting in fights.
A grandmother who tried her best.
As she got older, it got worse.
Now living miles apart and still dealing with loss. How these crimes destroy this family. They're not turning their backs on tragedy, but facing these problems head on.
Todo está bien. Did you have a good summer?
I'm on track to do something good.
Our school, come on. We love weird kids.
This is me.
Place was like, wow. It's going to be great today.
I think that's amazing.
I want to welcome everybody.
That girl portrays determination.
That was a tight squeeze. Oh, wow.
Keeping my fingers crossed.
I don't know who decided that the news was a litany of the 10 worst things to happen in Colorado today. Why is that news? Just because it's bad? Just because it's sad? That's not a reflection of your life. That's not a reflection of my life. What are our days really like? Yeah, there are ups and downs. A lot of stuff's pretty mundane and boring. Every now and then you see something that's so funny, you're like, oh, I gotta tell somebody about that. That's what our days are actually like. So that's what we want next to be like.
I aspire to be a writer. New York Times bestseller is the dream.
My dream is to become a marine biologist and to work hands-on with animals.
I dream to travel around the world and be an influential speaker.
I want to be a businesswoman or a doctor.
My goals and aspirations are to make a difference.
My dream is to be an Air Force pilot.
I want to go to med school and I want to be a trauma surgeon.
I always ask my family for world peace for Christmas.
There have been frightening things in the news lately, familiar things for many Coloradans. Check in with your family and friends. If you or someone you know needs mental health support or emotional help, it's available right this second. A real person ready to provide real problem solving. Call or text Colorado Crisis Services. Let's take care of ourselves and each other.
People are outside. People are active in this state. And I think by osmosis, people like sports. People like athletics. It's just a cool place to be.
All right, let's wash the political ads out of our eyes and ears with another story of the good ones. You know them as the public servants who can sometimes get a bad rap on the news, but 99% of them are quietly working for good behind the scenes every day, and that is why we call them the good ones. And remind you, they're almost all good ones. Aurora police dispatchers got a call about a missing dog this morning. Well, all right, I guess we don't typically do missing dogs, but this dog was right outside the dispatch center. One of the dispatchers went out on lunch break and retrieved the dog, named Katniss, brought her back to the dispatch center break room until animal control could come over. Another dispatcher gets on Nextdoor, posts about Katniss, and lo and behold, reunited with her owners.
Our Colorado weather picture changing yet again. The storm that brought the beneficial rain is moving out, and that means a warming and drying trend over the next couple of days. In spite of the cloud cover, temperatures seasonal today. All of that heavy rain pushing into Nebraska and Kansas. The remnants of that dangerous hurricane we told you about last week, Willa, also feeding into central Texas where heavy rain is likely. With our latest storm moving out, that means drier air will work in on the northwest flow, and that means a warming and drying trend that'll get us close to 70 degrees both Friday and Saturday. Start planning those outdoor activities for the weekend now. And tonight, not bad. Partly cloudy, low 40s. Tomorrow, mix of clouds and sunshine, warmer, high 66. Upper 60s Friday, 70s Saturday. A chance for rain Tuesday night. The Halloween forecast looking spooky with rain and snow early on Halloween, but hopefully out of here by the time the trick-or-treaters head out. After all, everybody's out picking their pumpkins, and why not? 'Tis the season. Wesley, I love him.
Coloradans are grappling with the fact that the government wants to change the definition of them. But before we get you back to the political ads, a moment of zen from Boulder County.
Value of a community blood center. At Bonfils Blood Center, it's providing nearly all of Colorado's blood supply, helping the one of every 7 hospital patients who will need blood, responding to disasters at home and far away. It's research that advances blood transfusion medicine, going the extra mile to meet the need, and knowing that a life-saving blood supply will always be there for our community. For more than 70 years, that's been the value of Bonfils Blood Center.
I'm former Major League pitcher Tommy John. You may know me from the elbow surgery that bears my name. But with Lou Gehrig's disease, there is no comeback. It robs you of the ability to walk, talk, and even blink an eye before it takes your life. That's why I need you to spread the word about the National ALS Registry, a vital research program to find the cause, treatment, and cure. Visit alsa.org to learn more. Together, we can strike out Lou Gehrig's disease.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
We've got a big problem, and we need your help.
It's called sexual assault, and it has to stop.
We have to stop it. So listen up. If she doesn't consent, or if she can't consent,
it's a crime. It's wrong.
We need all of you to be part of the solution. This is about respect. It's about responsibility.
It's up to all of us to put an end to sexual assault. And that starts with you.
Because one is too many.
Team Challenge is the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America's endurance training and fundraising program. When you join, you'll help fund cures for Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. With our half-marathon training program, you'll train with experienced coaches for over 16 weeks to run or walk a half marathon at an exciting destination race, including Chicago, Napa, Nashville, Lisbon, Las Vegas, and others. Choose your challenge. Teams forming now.
Don't take your health for granted. Get in-depth medical information that your doctor can trust at a fraction of the price. No appointment needed. Choose from new screenings including heart health and blood type. Own your health. Find your fair at 9healthfair.org.
Perhaps you have heard the Trump administration is considering defining the word gender to mean sex assigned at birth. Perhaps you can't imagine how that would impact your life. Miriam would like you to consider how it would impact hers. She offers the latest in a series of essays on Next. Coloradans talking about their lives in their own words.
I really sort of came to terms with it myself 4 years ago. When I'm out on the street, I'm just another woman. I'm just a trans person. Like, I have to be an activist because otherwise my rights are being taken away. When people refer to me as an activist, I feel like all I'm trying to do is tell you that I'm here. If that's activism, we have a problem. I would like to just live and not have to defend my life at every step. I shouldn't have to be an activist for this. I should just get to live my life. Fear and panic. What's happening is there's a specific movement that's trying to make us disappear from public life. The memo explicitly says that we have too many civil rights and they need to be taken away. What is too many civil rights at that point? I don't understand. It is a direct threat of violence against us. If these sorts of policies take hold, we'll face all sorts of discrimination, housing discrimination, work discrimination, that will be entirely legal and will have no recourse. And I won't be able to access medical services the way that I should. So we're just here, and we're just people trying to make it through the world. How long do we have to keep explaining that we're here and reliving these debates about whether we exist? We do. There's not a debate.
There are an estimated 1.4 million transgender Americans. The new gender definition could be reviewed by the Justice Department later this year. Have you ever noticed that no parking signs are like an invitation to park for one particular kind of driver? And we will hear from a viewer who says, "I thought you were a good guy." Next.
We are Broncos.
I'm a Broncos fan because we got the best team in the NFL.
My whole life I've been a Broncos fan.
Denver till we die. We bring the thunder. Bronco fans are the best.
It's probably the most exciting thing that you could ever feel.
They're the best team in the league, obviously. We got the best fans. The whole stadium shakes and everybody's jumping around and rooting and hollering. There's nothing like this crowd.
Broncos fans will always stay loyal.
We're looking forward to another Super Bowl win.
This is Bronco country. We bleed orange and blue.
I'm Kristen Aguirre, sharing Colorado stories. 9 News everywhere.
It's 3 p.m. For 50 million kids across America, school's out. And for a third of these kids, they're out on their own. Out with nowhere to go and nothing to do. But every afternoon is a chance to change America's future. All you have to do is open the door. It's time to support the Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
This is how you say, "It's going to be okay," to someone who just lost everything. That yes, we'll find you somewhere to stay. And yes, your children will have breakfast. Every 8 minutes, the American Red Cross responds to a disaster and makes this promise. Help us keep it.
You think it's the end. You're not gonna live.
We were in a moment of terror.
It was just a horrible scene.
I turned around and looked at my house, and I realized that I didn't have a house anymore.
Jewish Family Service distributes tons of food to the hungry, counsels hundreds of people in pain, employs those with disabilities, provides hope and help to seniors, helps the unemployed get jobs, and assists refugees new to America.
Touching 21,000 people every single year.
JFS does so much, and yet it comes down to you. You have the power to change the world.
It's a sign that there is someone in Lafayette named Tow Away. Funny name, must be French, because why else would somebody park where clearly it says no parking on the grass, tow away zone? But Mr. Away decided to park his SUV there. Jim Potter shared this. Didn't stick around to see if that SUV left on a flatbed, but that would have been delicious. Email your photos to next@9news.com. Teresa in Erie she's miffed. Kyle, you were in an ad supporting Polis against Stapleton. Why? Thought you were a good guy, not supporting either party, trying to stay neutral. Stand by every word we've said about both. If they clip them for their ads, we can't stop that. See you next time. Subscribe to the Next YouTube channel and I'll buy you a beer. Am I actually buying them a beer? This could be a very poor idea. We need some terms and conditions. Offer subject to terms and conditions.